Hey everyone, welcome back. So today I want to talk about good vibes only. You've seen it written everywhere: t-shirts, Instagram bios, YouTube thumbnails, and it sounds kind of positive, right? Like a simple reminder to focus on the light. But what if I said this phrase has quietly become one of the most deceptive ideas in modern spirituality? Because sometimes chasing good vibes only isn't healing, it's actually hiding. And there's a growing phenomenon in spiritual spaces referred to as spiritual bypassing. And, obviously, this is nothing new that I'm talking about. There are lots of YouTube videos about it, and people are writing blogs about spiritual bypassing. It's now a commonly used phrase, but I think it's important to really emphasize and reiterate the message because I feel like it seems to be getting worse. And spiritual bypassing is basically using spiritual ideas to avoid real pain or responsibility. And I think that lately it's evolved into something even bigger than that. It's almost become a cult of positivity. And that means it's complete with its own unspoken rules and even moral hierarchy. I mean, think about it. Phrases like, everything happens for a reason. Just raise your vibration. Love and light only. And, at first these sound comforting, and they can also become tools of silence, ways to shame ourselves for simply being human. So let's talk about an extreme example that uses this kind of toxic positivity, and that's the cult Nexium. And it was marketed as a self-improvement group, but in reality it was a cult built on toxic positivity. They taught something called being at cause, and it's the idea that if you feel anger, shame, or sadness, it's all your fault. Negative emotions weren't to be felt, they were to be erased. And while most of us aren't in a cult, fingers crossed, hopefully, that same message is basically everywhere online. And it's wrapped in pretty quotes saying, good vibes only, sounding like empowerment, but it's really emotional repression. And at first, focusing on the positive sounds healthy. But when we use positivity to avoid pain, we fall into the spiritual bypassing. It shows up as phrases like, oh, just focus on the positives. It's all just a lesson. And, that happened to help you grow. And while these ideas might hold a bit of truth, they can also become a form of denial. Because pain doesn't disappear when you reframe it, it just gets buried. And buried pain doesn't heal. It leaks out in insidious kind of ways through addictions, burnout, or maybe even broken relationships. In many New Age spaces, you might hear people say things like, oh, don't lower your vibration, stay high vibe. And while that sounds inspiring, it can actually turn emotions like grief or anger into something to be ashamed of. But grief, anger, heartbreak, these aren't flaws. They're signals. It's how your body says something needs attention. Telling someone who's hurting that their pain is just a lesson doesn't heal them. It just makes them feel isolated. It says you're wrong for feeling. But feeling deeply is what makes us human. Now, I want to talk about anger. One of the most misunderstood emotions in spirituality is anger. We're told it's low vibration, unspiritual, but anger is actually one of your most powerful teachers. Healthy anger says, my boundary was crossed. Something here is unfair. It's not about destruction, it's about direction. Suppressing anger doesn't make you more enlightened. It just disconnects you from your truth. And there's another side to this, and it's what I call spiritual narcissism. And that's basically the belief that being spiritually awake makes you superior. You see it online. You see people lecturing others in comment sections, telling them that they're not evolved enough. But here's the irony. Real enlightenment doesn't look like superiority. It looks like humility. It's not the ego getting smaller because it's enlightened. It's the ego learning to get out of the way. Authentic spirituality isn't about escaping darkness. It's about integrating it. It sort of means facing the messy, uncomfortable parts of yourself, the shadow self, your jealousy, your fear, your mistakes, and saying to it, you belong too. And let's just be real. It's not always high vibe. It's not always pretty. In fact, shadow traits, shadow work is not pretty, but it's real. Because ultimately, you don't heal by avoiding your shadow. You heal by learning to walk with it. So maybe the next time you see a quote saying, good vibes only, you'll remember you weren't meant to live in constant bliss. That's just not realistic, and that's not human. You were meant to live fully through joy, through pain, through everything that makes you human. And that is where real spirituality begins. Remember that real spirituality isn't about floating above your pain. It's about walking through it and still emerging whole. If this resonated, please give me a thumbs up, a like, share it, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.